Welcome to Radiant Moments, a space where resilience and healing come to life through real stories. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we're going to explore what it truly means to be a warrior mum, navigating fiercely for your child's mental health without losing yourself in the process. Our guest is Jenn Robb, a nurse practitioner, author, coach, wife, and mum who's walked through her own fire, navigating her daughter's journey with anxiety, depression, and trauma. Jenn discovered not only the depths of struggle, but the heights of hope, faith, and purpose. Jenn, I'm so honoured to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
After hearing your story, it's already so powerful, and I know many mums listening will find pieces of themselves in it. Can we rewind a bit and start at the beginning? Can you take us back to when your daughter's struggles first pulled you into this unexpected journey? How did you first realize you needed to become an advocate?
So my daughter's name is Chloe. She's now a thriving 17-year-old, but her journey really started when she was 12. It started with anxiety, depression, ultimately leading to self-harm. And we didn't really know what the cause was of her issues. It was through lots of struggles and kind of along the way that we finally had discovered when she finally told us that she had been sexually assaulted by another peer, which was really at the root of all of her mental health issues. And the biggest, kind of pivotal moment for us was on April 4th of 23, when she had been home and I couldn't get a hold of her, and I just knew something was wrong. And so I sent my boys who were at the high school down the road, and I said, just go. And they found her unresponsive, laying face down in a pool of vomit. And of course, they called 911. We get her to the hospital. Her alcohol level was 4 times the lethal limit. She's 5 foot tall. She's 100 pounds. She's very petite. And so she had enough alcohol in her system that she should have been dead, right? Mm-hmm. And especially when you look at the whole aspect of suffocation and aspiration and all of those things. But 100% do I know that God has a plan for her. But that's kind of when the really hard part of the struggle began, because we had to really kind of pivot and dig deep. What we thought had been working wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, we had to switch counselors. I needed somebody else who had more expertise in trauma and specifically adolescence. And then also that I wanted someone who was trained in cognitive behavior therapy, mm-hmm. such as like EMDR.
Yes.
Because so much of that is important. But what I found is that oftentimes as moms, we get just told, oh, it's okay. Just do this, this, and this, and it will all be fine. Right? But those doctors or those providers aren't looking at our child the same way that we do. We know our child. We know their behaviors, their moods, their tone. We know all of those things. And through this, I just really felt like most of them were just saying, just take this pill, just do this, and it will all be fine and go away. And that's really not the case. And so part of being in the warrior mom is that you really are advocating for your child who is they're not really in a position to even speak for themselves. They don't really know what they're feeling. Their little teen brains aren't developed enough. They've already got a mess of emotions and hormones and everything else that they're dealing with. And so when they're dealing with adults who are just saying, take this medicine, they don't know how to advocate or push, speak up for themselves. So that's really where the mom comes in and is really the biggest advocate in finding the best solutions in order to help our children and not just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. Medication after medication after medication is not always the best way, because we need to get to the root cause, right? We need to heal the brain and not just kind of symptom management by putting a Band-Aid on it. And I think that's like the biggest thing of advocating is like really trying to get them to deal with the root cause of their pain.
Yes, so true when you say, whilst they have a voice and, they're learning from example when we're advocating for them, they really don't understand long term, looking ahead when it comes to just using a medication and not having a holistic plan. So I completely agree with that experience for teenagers and young children. They want to have a voice and they want to be independent and they want to learn that stuff, but they really don't have the tenacity at times that you need when you're dealing with medical practitioners who think they know best. There's so many things there that my listeners and other mums just around the world would resonate with wholeheartedly if they have a child on any type of medical journey where they have to interact with multiple medical practitioners. So I know that you're a nurse. Can you tell me, how did your background as a nurse practitioner and a coach shape how you show up for your daughter in those early days when you were just trying to start navigating this space?
I've been in medicine for over 25 years. And so navigating hospitals and doctors and therapists, that's kind of second nature. But what I will say is that when it becomes your own child, you almost kind of lose your sensibilities a little bit. Like, if you would come to me, I could be like, oh, well, we should look at this or whatever. But when it's your own child, the child that you love more than anything, and they're hurting, you lose the ability almost to kind of look at it from an objective point of view, because it's all very tangible and real. But because I do have that background, it was easier for me to approach the medical professionals because I knew what she needed, but I still needed them to help me get her there. But what I've found is that like a lot of moms don't know how to push back because dealing with medical professionals is not second nature to them. And I think that that's where you really kind of have to step into this like big warrior mom role and say, no, I don't want to put her on 5 medications. I want you to figure out, how do we temporize her anxiety and the feelings that she's feeling, but still allow her to feel everything that she needs to feel so that she can heal from the trauma. Because it's just what you said. If we just allow them to take medications and we're not treating them from a holistic standpoint and treating them as a whole person, right? Mind, body, and spirit. When they step into their young adulthood, what have they learned? When they're really going to have to learn to deal with things, because you and I both know as an adult, it's not always fun. Adulting is hard. And life is going to life. There's always going to be something. And so for me, it really became a way of teaching her to advocate for herself so that she could deal with things as they come along. And I think that it's very important. Like, kids are very short-sighted, but we know, man, if we don't get a hold of this, what's at the root of the anxiety and trauma, when you step into young adulthood, everything is still going to be a big deal, and it's going to cause even more trauma and more anxiety. So if we can kind of get them to the point where they want to do and they know they need to do the work to get over whatever it is, and then they develop those better coping mechanisms, now we're setting them up for a much better adulthood that we know is going to have its own set of trials and tribulations.
100%. And one of the things I've come across is when the doctor says, oh, you're not really feeling that. And teaching them that actually, no, this is my body. This is how I actually feel. I don't know why I feel that way. Because as a female in medical, the amount of times you get gaslit or you get told, oh no, female anxiety or those types of things, even in my experience with my boys, it's the same thread where they're talking about something that's going on for them. Say with my son, in his brain, he had a brain injury, and he's talking to the doctor and he's telling them how he feels. And they're like, oh no, that's not our department.
But here's what I'll say, Michelle, about that is that, and I hate this part of the medicine because I feel like this is where it kind of people get really stuck. I feel like, and I even saw it like in my own daughters, like with her psychiatrist, so much of medicine and medical providers, they get kind of stuck in their own box.
Yeah.
And then if somebody says something, because again, we're all unique creatures, right? What works for you doesn't work for me, and the way I feel and the way that I process something doesn't the same way that you process it. They kind of get stuck in this box, and they're like, well, they don't know what to do when someone is outside of that box.
Yeah.
So instead of figuring out how to help you navigate that, they simply kind of disregard or push away what they feel. And what I wanted for Chloe is to not feel disregarded. I don't
Yeah.
want her not to feel heard and seen.
100%.
We are all
Yeah.
entitled to the way that we feel and how we process, but we're also responsible for our actions and how we handle those feelings, right? And
100%. Yeah.
so the goal is, and I see this so much in medicine, especially when it comes to like taking medications. Everybody just wants to put a band-aid over it,
Yeah.
but you're not solving the problem.
No, it's not.
And part of being a caregiver and in medicine is you should want to solve the problem. But they're so entrapped in that box that they live in that they can't see the zebras on the other side and how to treat those zebras, if you will. And I think it's important that we really understand that this is where we have to advocate and say, no, he's telling you this is how he's feeling. And if you can't help him, then I'll find someone who can. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay.
The fact that when you see one field and they have a team of people, the amount of work as an advocate to get those people to like communicate, to like cross over so that this treatment is accompanying this treatment. So you're not doing the same thing with a different name on it and then you're not getting anywhere. I find that's the other part, that showing our little ones how to, that are not so little anymore, but how to actually navigate that space to advocate and get the actual medical professional who's providing a treatment to communicate with their other medical professionals in a timely and effective manner is the other nugget to the process when we're dealing with 10 different medical professionals all trying to deal with the same issue, because everybody is in their box and they only covered this tiny little section of it. And so it's so powerful to hear you talk about the importance of advocating. And if you can't listen to them, if you can't give them the space to be heard, even if you can't treat it, you should be able to address it and say, I can hear what you're saying. I don't have the skill set for that, but my colleague, da 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 da, or I can refer you to, so that they still feel like the information they've given is valuable. And that's so important in this line of warrior mum stance, is to be able to just instill that little bit of tenacity in our loved ones so that they can actually say, hang on a second, I've given you information. I need you to tell me where I go if you can't help me. So
But so
thank you.
often, like in mental health, that's one of the major things in mental health. They often don't feel seen, heard, or understood.
Yes.
And it further agitates their problem when they don't feel seen, heard, and understood. And as
100%.
moms, we have to be willing to be the voice for them to get them to be seen, heard, and understood,
Yes.
right?
And it's a journey when you as a person have been through a process where you're not seen, heard, or understood, to be
Right.
able to then make sure that that's not a repeat process. It's so valuable. And I'm really appreciating all of the information that you're giving, because really it's such a tender place when we're talking about not only our journey as a mum watching our loved one, but the trauma and the process and the distress of just being able to say, I'm not doing well, as a young one as well. And when teens and even littler ones who are struggling with trauma, they feel like there is no other way but to do self harm or to seek out a substance or to cut or hurt themselves in that way as an outlet, because they might feel shame or they don't feel like they'll get the support. So I really appreciate that, because it's a hard space to kind of tap into. It's emotional for us to see them struggle as well. So I wanted to lean into that emotional reality for a little bit, because behind every outward struggle, there is 100% an inward struggle of fear, hope, and vulnerability. Can you share some of the raw, honest moments that you faced as an advocate and a carer? Maybe times when you felt overwhelmed or like you were drowning, and how you managed to still be present and calm for your daughter?
So there were so many times especially early in the journey, because I often say, I feel like my family was like the white picket fence kind of family, like the same parents raising our children. We've been together for 25 years, the house, the typical kind of, in my case, all American dream, if you will.
Yeah.
And so when your child starts to struggle, and she has two brothers. So they had never had issues like this. And so when you have a child who is struggling, as a mom, you often wrestle with anger. You're hurting just as bad as they're hurting because you can't fix it. I mean, that's the biggest thing about being a mom, is that you think about all the times when they're small and they fall down and they come running, right? And they come running to mama and they've got a scrape on their knee, and mama can pick them up, wipe it off, kiss it, and put a Band-Aid on it. And now they're better. And mama's the hero.
Yeah.
But when you have children that are struggling with trauma or mental health, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. And as a mom, there's guilt and there's shame and there's fear because you don't know how to fix this. And I mean, so many times, I remember literally just being in the bathroom on the floor, just crying because I couldn't fix it. And all I wanted to do was to fix it. But what I learned through that is that God is there, but also that our children aren't asking us to be perfect moms and to have all the answers. They're not. What Chloe needed most often was me just to be present and to be there and say, I love you. I don't know the answers, but we will figure it out together. And just to hug her and say, it's going to be okay. So many times that's what she needed. Instead of me trying to solve the problem, she just needed me to be there, to be her safe space. As a mom, sometimes you have to be willing to let go of the control aspect of it, right? Because you don't really have any ultimate control over it. You can't control the way they feel. You can't magically snap your fingers and make it all better, but you have to let them work through their process. And you just be there. And none of this is your fault. I mean, I wrestled with all the time, like, what if I would have seen this? How did I miss this? I mean, we didn't let her go anywhere. I mean, how did this happen? I should have seen it. Like, in all those questions and things that you just mull over in your head all the time, but it's not your fault. And I think that that's important for us to hear, is that it's not our fault. As loving mothers, we're going to do everything we can to protect our children. But at the end of the day, they're not always in our protection. And as they get older, this becomes a much, much harder lesson to really grasp onto, because they start making those independent choices. So all we can do as mamas is to be there, to show up, to love them, to support them, to guide them, and to be their safe space. And I really feel like that's important for moms to know, is that A, you're not alone, but B, it's okay to relinquish the guilt and the shame and the control.
Control. Yes. Because you do. You want to fix it. Because that's what you're taught as you grow up in society, is that that's your role, is to be the rock, the person who is able to work through it all, to be the support, the cheerleader, all of the hats that we wear as mums, and learning to give yourself grace and to show up in the best way possible that you can. But also, it's that moment where you think, oh, I've got this, I can make this all better. And if it doesn't become all better, the shame, the fear that you failed, all of those things 100% are there under the surface. And we may have this mask on that we're fine, but that I'm hiding in the bathroom and I need a moment because it's become overwhelming. And I feel like in your journey, from what I have discovered about you, is that faith seems to be a pivotal thread in your story. How did your spiritual walk sustain or even challenge you through those darkest nights?
I mean, yeah, there were some real dark nights, a lot of wrestling, a lot of anger almost, at God, saying, I don't know why you're allowing this to happen. And I think oftentimes for me, it was realizing that God wasn't doing it to me. We live in a very broken world in society, and we're always going to face different trials and hardships. throughout our entire lives. And it affects us differently when it affects our kids. But the biggest realization is that God never left, that he was still there, standing with me in the fire, even though I didn't feel like he was there because my child is struggling. But he was there. And I think when I go through that process, not only was Chloe transforming through the process into this beautiful young woman that she is now, but God was using that to refine me too, to help give me a new purpose, to help me understand and be able to empathize with other moms who were struggling, because there are a lot of us out there that have kids that are struggling with this. And oftentimes I feel like we think that we have to do it alone. And that's just not the case. And I think that in the beginning, it was a very tough fight. Like almost who was going to win for control? Like, was it going to be God or was it going to be me? And ultimately, I had to come to this place of surrender and saying, okay, I don't know what to do anymore. I've done all I know to do. And I need you to take control of this and to take control of Chloe and help her. Because I'm not making much progress. And I think sometimes when we come to that place of surrender, it's freeing, because now you realize it wasn't really yours to ever carry.
Yeah.
And you can let go of the guilt and the shame and the fear and the control. And then you can just be present. You can rest in God's holiness and just be present and be there in the fullness of your calling as the mother. I know for me, like it was a wrestle, like, why is this happening to me? But one thing that God repeatedly I feel like was said over and over was like, this is not by mistake. You are chosen to be her mother because you are the best one to be her mother. And we get in this, well, what if she had a different mom? This probably wouldn't have happened. Or I bet Susie over there on social media could be a better mother for her or for him, because she's got it all together. And that's just simply not the case. You were chosen to be their mother long before you even existed. And I think that we need to grasp that and to own that and say, I am your mother and I love you and I am chosen by God to be your mother. And we are going to work this out and figure out how to navigate this together. Yeah, it's a lot, the battle. But then when you come back to the place that God is there in the fire, it's a game changer for you. I mean, it's truly like, it's a game changer.
And it kind of gives you grounding in the space as well. And something if you don't have access to a tribe that you've crafted yourself in those support spaces, it's important to have something to hold on to and something to feel secure in as well as a mum, because it is definitely a wrestle, an internal wrestle at times as well. And it's not always outspoken. These discussions and these thoughts, they are more internalized than people realize. And there is, I guess, a culture around being a mum in society that you're expected to have it all in check, have it all under control. And a lot of that guilt and shame comes from what we see out in front of us with other mums, and how social media and media in general put that forward. For mums who are on medical journeys, it's a little bit different. It's not the same path that society projects. It is actually more of a loop-de-loo and a few side hustles and things like that go on in our journey. So it's such a valuable thing to have for yourself, that even if you may not be on a path with God, that you have something higher than yourself, nature, the universe, whatever it is that might be speaking to you in your heart. But I think it's so valuable that that connection is there when your tribe is not available or you haven't yet found them.
But sometimes you haven't found them, but also even if you have, sometimes you don't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because when you start talking about mental health and kind of the struggles of your children, sometimes that comes with a stigma, right?
Yeah.
Or there's judgment like, well, how did you miss it? Like, I mean, what did you do? I mean, so there's a lot of things like, and I mean, I just struggled with
Mm.
that. Like,
Mm.
I didn't want to tell anybody. I mean, we kept it in our family. I mean, we didn't talk about it with other
Mm.
people
Mm.
because I didn't want to hear judgment from other people. Again, I think it goes back to not only just judgment from others, but really and truly thinking that we as moms have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing.
No.
I
No.
mean, there's no such thing. We're
Mm.
all imperfect.
Yeah.
And I think when we realize that and we quit trying to be perfect and set this idea of perfectionism for ourselves,
Mm.
then it allows us a little more freedom and then we can be more present. Your children don't need you to be perfect, they need you to be
Yeah.
present. And
Hmm.
if you get hung up on the social media cycle where you're looking and everybody else on the outside looks like they have it all together,
Mm.
but in reality, if you turned off that screen, they probably don't. And there's no perfect mom, there's no perfect family, there's no perfect anything out there. And when you grasp that as a mom and you can just be present with your kid and you can be their safe space and all of the things that they need you to be, that's freedom. But the other part of that is the only way to kind of accept that you're not perfect and to kind of advocate for yourself is to take care of
Mm.
yourself as the mom. Self-care is important, and it doesn't have to be this big extravagant thing. You don't have to go on a week-long vacation where you're sitting on a
Mm.
beach with your feet propped up for a week to consider that self-care. Now that's all lovely, but
100%. Hmm.
yeah, but that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
And the other thing about taking care of ourselves as the mom, because we are everything to everyone all the time, if we get to a place where we're burnt out and we're beat down because of self imposed perfectionism or the sheer exhaustion of taking care of your kid, when we get to that point of full on burnout, what good are you? You've served no one because
Hmm.
you simply cannot pour from your empty cup. But you're also modeling that behavior to your children. I wanted Chloe to see someone who was still able to take care of myself so that I could rise every day and help her.
Yeah.
And so self care doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be going for a walk for 10 minutes in the morning or
Hmm.
10 minutes in the afternoon just to feel the sunshine on your skin and to let just the quiet. And for
Hmm.
me, it's like being still, and you can hear God's voice saying, listen, you don't have to carry this alone. Or it's taking a hot bath, or it's drinking a hot cup of tea on the back porch, or whatever it may be, that whatever rejuvenates your soul. For me, it was listening to worship music. And I just think that that's important because when we can model these good behaviors for our children, we are setting them up for more success in life. We can teach them to take care of themselves. We can teach them better coping mechanisms as opposed to hurting themselves. There's so many things that our children are watching us do, even
Hmm.
when we think they're not. Your kids are always watching and they're smart. They're smart.
So smart.
They know when you're mad, when you're sad, when you're hurting.
Yeah.
And like I think for me, like when Chloe would have her really bad days, sometimes she was
Mm.
just so overwhelmed with anxiety and all of the things, when even just basic day-to-day life functions were too much
Mm.
for her. You need to be refreshed enough so that you can show up, so that you can carry her or him. Because if you're on the ground too and you're both on the ground, now nobody's going anywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Nobody's doing anything. Hmm.
Right. And so, like, that's why it's so important, I feel like, to take care of yourself every single day. Something that is specifically for you.
Yes.
And model that good behavior so that you can get up every day and rise. And then put one foot in front of the other. And then you're going to go into battle with your child and help them fight in their battle.
Yes. 100%. And I think the other thing is, when we look at, if you have more than one child, it's also that ripple effect as well onto our other children and our spouses and any family are aware. They share with other family. It's also where we show up as well. We are the sounding board. We have to make sure that we're there for our others as well. And one of the biggest things that I advocate through my Radiant Moments and also J&B Inspired is micro moments of self-care, because some days when you have lots of things to achieve and lots of places to go, even if you take 90 seconds a couple of times a day, when you feel like there's no space, you can always find a pocket of space. And when we feel pain because our loved ones are hurting, for us to be strong in those moments, sometimes we just have to give ourselves grace to take that time, not feel guilty that we've had to take that time. Because when you talked about burnout, it is so real. And it's really under talked about a lot. And it shows up in health issues for ourselves and exhaustion. And at the end of the day, if you're feeling like I've got nothing left in my cup at all, and I am digging further into my cup than I have access to because I need to show up and show them that this is possible, that is like your siren going, hang on, well, wait a minute. You need to step outside and take a deep breath, smell a flower. You need to do something to change that tone in yourself. And I think from listening to our conversation today, that would be like the most important piece of advice I feel that you're giving, and what we have been talking about for the last year, is that self-care is non-negotiable. It's not a luxury.
It's not selfish.
No. And it's so looked at like that.
Oh, 100%. Especially for a mom, right? Because mom, everybody else is supposed to be taken care of but the mom. But we, as the moms, we set the tone.
Yeah.
The other part of that is if you're in a complete state of burnout, think about your reactions. When your kid's having a bad day, how do you react when you're completely burnt out? You make their bad day even worse. Or if your spouse comes home and they've had a bad day and now you snap because you don't have anything else in the cup to give. So in order, for me, like being a mom, that's my God-given calling. I mean, my children are a gift for me, and it's a privilege to be their mother.
Yes.
Now, do they challenge you and stress you out? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, they
Are
do.
there days that you're like, I'm not sure about this anymore? Yes. But to be the best version of that, you have to take time for you so that you don't snap and bite their head off and make their day even worse. Or if the one that has anxiety is crying and upset, and then all of a sudden you're pulling your hair out because they're crying and upset, and all they needed you to do was hug them, but you don't have anything left. You couldn't give them a hug if you wanted to because your cup is so empty.
Well, that's right. And that moment where they need the hug and you have nothing left, and if you gave them a hug, the hug would be empty because there is nothing left. I find that when I'm in a state where we've had an emergency of some description and I've already been going and going and going, and I find that my normal bandwidth is like shrunk to, I'm like, that's my warning, my white flag to say, excuse you. You need to just take a second. And even in the moment where, say, my child is distressed, they're crying, something's terrible's happened, if I recognize that I've got no bandwidth left and like noises are annoying me and things, I will actively acknowledge, hey, mum's feeling like she's got nothing. Give me a moment, I'll be right back. And going and doing something just to recharge my cup so that I can find my grace, find my extra spare energy boost for them. That has made a world of difference in our medical journey, is being able to say, I'm important too. My survival, my needs are just as important as the people that I'm caring for, helping to thrive. If I don't thrive and I'm
Nobody
just
does.
surviving, well, that's right. Nobody gets fed, because you got nothing. You got no energy. And I would say you would agree that for a mum who's going through a similar pain, who's on a journey that they have never navigated before in their life, that one thread of self-care to prevent burnout and to protect your own energy and your own space is like one of the biggest pieces of advice when we're dealing with any type of mental health, medical journey in today's society. It's the most underrated piece of advice, and it has to be that we show ourselves grace to allow us that there is no guilt in needing to refill our own cup, because people take from it all day, even in little ways. And if we don't fill it ourselves, nobody else is going to.
But that's so true though, right? Like we we as women, as moms, we are nurturers, we are caregivers. That is who we are uniquely designed to be. But you think about all the people, like if you're just talking about your spouse and your kids, those kids are selfish little beings. They're not like going, well, what can I do for mom today? Right? They're like, well, mom, I need you to take me here. Mom, I need you to fix my dinner. Mom, can you pack my lunch? Mom, where did I put this? Because I forgot. And then your husband or spouse is going, where did I put that? Because I forgot. And I'm going to be late for work, so I can't put my own dishes up. So we'll have to, you know what I mean? And like, if you don't take care of you, there is nobody else, because nobody else is worried about you. And I think we often forget that. And I think even as sometimes, and I know I've been here, like where you get kind of angry, right? Like at your spouse, or you're mad because, well, do you not see that I'm struggling? Well, no, because you know why? We're great at faking it.
So good at it. So
We're
great at it. We should
so
be
good at
trophy
it.
owners.
Right? We're so good at it. We're like, it's fine. It's fine. Everybody's fine. Everything's fine. But on the inside, you're about ready to blow a gasket.
So true. Yes.
And if you would have
100%.
just taken, instead of going and rushing to do the dishes, if you would have just stepped outside and picked a flower or drank that cup of hot tea for 5 minutes, how much better would you have been to continue to show up? Self-care is not selfish. And again, it doesn't have to be extravagant and expensive and this crazy luxurious thing. No, all of that's fine. Listen, I will be the first to tell you, I need a hair day and a spa day and all the things. But that's not reality, especially when you're in the thick of dealing with multiple children, mental health, illness, medical problems, and all of the things that else are always going to be a thing. And so you have to find that little shift to make yourself important, because remember, no one else is going to make you important except for you.
And I think on that journey of self-care also is being able to show your loved ones, whether your partner, your children, that mum's important too. And it's okay for mum to step out for a minute or to take time to rejuvenate. Because I think once that education, because it is all education, because if it hasn't been the status quo and you just been going, and then your health hits a wall because you're burnt out, and then they're like, hey, why are the dishes not done? And it's also that education for them that we have to teach them that we are important and that we need to be seen too. And in those moments, that's like the first tiny steps of your own self-care, is teaching those that we love and we show up for that I need the same care, and I can give that care to myself, but I need you to recognize that right now, this is my moment. I'll be with you in 5 minutes.
But I also think that it's important to say that if you have to ask for help as a mom there were many times that I had to ask for help from my husband or even from my older 2 boys. Like, I need you to help me with your sister. Like, I don't know what to do with her anymore. And I'm in a moment where I'm going to lose it with her, right? Because she was angry at me because of a rule that I had enforced with her, of course, again, she can't see that I was trying to protect her. But there were often times I had to go to one of her brothers and say, I need you to come get your sister right now. And they would come, and they would pick her up, and they could reason with her in a way that I couldn't at that moment because I was so burnt out.
Yeah.
And you asking for help is not a sign of weakness. To me, it's a sign of courage and to strength, and say, listen, I'm trying to tell you that I'm getting to a point where I may not be okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sending out my distress signal now before I completely hit the wall and the whole ship starts to sink. And I think that
Mm.
that's important for us to say is it doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay
Mhm.
to say, "Hey honey, can you do the dishes tonight? I need to go take a 20-minute walk because I've had a really hard day with, whatever at home."
All the things, all the things.
Right?
And you're right. It is that it's actually needs to be seen as a strength
Hmm.
to put your hand out and say, I need you to take this up right now. Yes, I normally do it, but you need to be on board right now. And in our journey, we have been blessed with family who, if I do that, I'm like, hey, I need a nap. Like, say I've been up all night with one of them and they're really sick or been in hospital and stuff. And they show up
Hmm.
because I didn't used to do that. I used to be afraid that I would be seen as less than, I
Hmm.
guess,
But do you
in
feel
that.
like that's like self-imposed? Like I feel often that not
Mm,
just as moms, but as
mm,
women,
mm.
we have put this self-imposition on ourselves that if we ask for help, it's weakness. But I don't know where that comes from. I mean, to me, that's just a societal pressure that says,
Mhm.
oh, women, if you ask for help, you're weak.
Yep.
But you're not.
No.
You're not. And the deal is I think what's so funny to me and almost ironic is that when you
Mm.
think about all the people that you take care of, they have no problems asking for help. Does your husband ask you does he have a problem saying, honey, I don't know where I put this. Can you find it? Do your
Yep.
kids saying, Mom, can you help me with my homework? Because I don't do they have a problem asking for that? They do not. So
They don't.
why have we taken it upon ourselves to
Mm.
say, I can't ask for help and wave the flag
Mm.
as a sign of weakness? It's
And
not.
well, it's definitely not. And it's definitely a lesson as women. We have to learn that it's okay in that space. And you're right, it isn't like a tangible, that's where it came from. But I think when you listen to other warrior women's stories, mums, young girls, when they are reaching out for help, say in the medical field, and they go and they talk about what's going on, it's just female anxiety or, are you on your period right now? When's your cycle and stuff? And I think part of that journey when we're showing up for ourselves and asking for help, sometimes it's also our societal systems that kind of show that you shouldn't have asked for help. You should have just realized that it was just that you were anxious or that it was your time of the month and things. And then I think when you have a situation like that and then you find out, oh, actually, no, hang on, there is something actually wrong. And I was right to do that. That in itself is empowering for yourself to know, hey, I can trust myself to know when I need help.
Right.
And as girls, when you grow up as a teenager and you're going through all those hormonal changes, I think having a mum who can show you that asking for help is not something to be crucified over and it's not something to be judging yourself or accepting anybody else's judgment. And
Hmm.
that's a real learning curve for us in society. And it's steep. And if you don't know and you've never had it modeled, but you see out there that asking for help sometimes doesn't turn out as accessing help. And I think that's really important for us to recognize that we shouldn't feel guilty about taking time for ourselves. We shouldn't feel guilty about or be fearful of saying, hey, mum or dad or doctor, I need help here. I'm out of my depth. I don't know what I'm doing. I need some guidance. Or can you just step in? I just need a moment.
Hmm.
And that's so powerful. Beyond anything else, self care and being able to reach out for help can make a world of difference when you are on a journey for mental health and somebody else's medical needs as well.
Hmm.
So, thank you so much for sharing those wonderful words of wisdom about your journey, not only for yourself, but also the journey of having to be an advocate, having to journey along something that you haven't experienced yourself, and knowing that sometimes you're just not always the right person in that moment, and that it's okay, because sometimes our children just don't receive what we are talking about, but someone else says exactly the same thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a aha light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in you saying it, but then somebody else, it resonating from somebody else in a different way. They may have used the same language, but a different tone because we were in a state of distress ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So those have been amazing takeaways for our listeners and for any woman who is in a similar situation.
Thank
So
you.
the powerful reminder that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's actually strength. It's okay to admit when things are hard and to ask for help. It allows all of our listeners to take a moment to breathe and hold on to the truth that you are not alone, that there is support out there no matter what your journey. Jen, you shared a personal mantra, and I wanted to share it if that was okay. The clarity of moment that gave you peace when you were in this storm for the moment was, you were made for this battle. Let's get up and fight. Faith and reflection feeds our souls, but we also need practical tools to keep navigating without burnout. Jen, you have brought a unique blend of medical expertise and coaching wisdom. How do you help mums strike that balance of fierce advocacy for their kids alongside nurturing their own well-being?
When it comes to like taking that time for yourself, one thing that I always say is if you need to write it down, write it down. Like I live and die by a paper calendar. Like I'm old school. But if you live and breathe by the phone or setting reminders, I think it's just important. It's very much about being intentional and not just saying, oh, yeah, I'll get to it later. And so the best way that you can advocate for yourself and for everyone else is to be intentional. Be intentional with your time. Be intentional. Don't sit on social media and scroll for 30 minutes and then go, oh, well, I don't have any time. Because you do. And so really that's what it's about, is just being intentional with your time and realizing that your time is precious, but so are you. And you do matter in all of this.
You've described 5 phases of the warrior mum journey in your book. Could you highlight a couple of these phases and what mums might expect as they move through this path?
Well, a lot of it is, in the first phases is dealing with like the storm itself, right? Like dealing with the feelings of the anger, the grief, the sadness, all of those things. And then moving on to the next phase and ultimately ending up in a feeling of empowerment that you are now meant to walk in this battle alongside your child or your spouse or whomever it may be. But you are equipped for this battle. And sometimes I think it's all about like just even transforming and really kind of looking inward and self-reflecting and saying, what am I trying, what is God or the universe, if that's, what you look to, trying to teach me? And if we can be taught and we are teachable and we can learn from the lessons that we're given, how much better and how much stronger and more empowered are we going to be on the outside of that fire? It's just like glass. Like one of my favorite things is glass blowing. And you think about the fire or the glass when it goes into the kiln, it's liquid. It's literally like molten liquid. But when it comes out and it starts to cool and you can start to mold that glass. And then you can make beautiful shapes and bowls and things out of it. That's what it's like for us. When we're in the fire, we're being molded. And you come out renewed and strengthened and empowered and with a whole new sense of purpose. And I think the biggest lesson through it all is to understand that there is purpose in your pain. There really is transforming purpose in that pain.
Yeah.
And that all of our stories matter. They may not all be the same, but they matter.
Yeah.
And that your story, because you came out the other side, can help someone else. And I think that that's where like this whole thing is for me, is I really want to empower women and moms to say, you're not alone in this. I promise that there's a purpose in this. And together we can figure out what that is. And you can step fully into that next season.
When you look at tackling some of the big myths and fears that mums face when advocating for a child with a mental health challenge, what's one myth about being a mum in this journey that you wish more women understood?
That you have to carry it alone, because you don't. You don't. And I think that, again, I don't know if that's society or if that's really just kind of a self-imposed thing that we as women take on, is that we kind of feel like we can gloat at some point. Well, like, look what I carried all by myself. And that's not what it's about. It's about, I mean, humans by nature are meant to be in community with others. And we're meant to help and to support and to love one another. And then when you think about the fact that, man, if you'd had somebody that could help you carry it, how much better off would you have been, right? Would you have hit rock bottom? Or would you have been able to carry it because now somebody else was carrying that burden with you? And I just think that that's really important, is that moms, you don't have to do it alone. Don't.
I feel that standing alone is so isolating. And sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you can't realize that until you've gone too far and you're in full burnout. And I think the messages being shared in your book today and on this journey is that vulnerability and recognizing that surrender doesn't mean defeat is like a vital lesson in this process, and being okay to sit with needing help and being seen by others, because being seen is scary at times because it's raw and all of the imperfections can be seen. And I think the insights, Jen, that you've offered are lifelines for mums who are overwhelmed by the pressure to fix everything all at once. And your voice of showing that that's not the case is so powerful in today's economy.
I call it Amazon society.
Yeah.
That's what we live in. We live in an Amazon society where, oh, we got to have it today and we got to fix it today. And what you have to realize is that sometimes I feel like the struggles that we go through are some of our biggest, and it's okay that you can't fix it. It's okay that it's going to take more than a day or two. It's okay that it takes months or years. Because to me, it's about the journey and the lessons that we're learning along the way and who we're becoming and who our children are becoming. Who are we modeling and what are we modeling for our children? That's what's important, right? And I think the biggest thing that I wanted Chloe to know is Mom is a fighter. I'm resilient. I'm going to take care of me, but I'm going to take care of you too. And we're going to get up and we're going to stand up. And every day we're going to get up and we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. And if we fall, then we fall. And if we get knocked down today, we get knocked down today. But you know what? We're not going to stay on the ground. We're not going to wallow in our self-pity. We're not going to wallow in this victim mentality. We're going to get back up and we're going to re-put on our armor and we're going to keep fighting the battle.
Yeah.
That's where the lessons are learned. The lessons aren't learned in staying down and beat down and being a victim. There was no way I was going to let Chloe be a victim to her circumstances and to what happened to her. You are going to rise because that's who God created you to be. And that is the powerful lessons. Getting up, showing up every day.
Yeah.
That's the power.
So much wisdom. Like, I have goosebumps because it resonates so truly with our journey, really, that every time we get knocked down, because it's been a really tough day in our journey, that showing that, okay, we're going to have a sleep and tomorrow we're going to start this again because we can, because we have that strength, that inner capacity to be more. And I find that these words of encouragement mean that mums can take the space to have a tough day and that be okay. And to show that today was hard. I'm there with you, but tomorrow we can make it better. even if it's just one thing that's better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what encouragement do you have for mums who feel completely isolated or spiritually shaken because of their caregiving journey?
You have to let go and let God. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is letting go of that control. And it's like you said, surrendering is not defeat. And the biggest thing is, people often say, trust the process. But I think it's more, when you have faith, it's trusting His process. His ways are not our ways. And He knows far better than we do. And I think that if you can hold on to that, that to me is beautiful. It's okay to have hard days. It's okay to sit and to cry. It's okay to sit on the floor and to cry. It's okay to yell and to tell God that you're mad and that you're sad. It's okay. But warriors, you rise every day. And you are leaning on a sovereign God to give you that renewed strength to stand up and say, not today.
Yeah.
Not today. I am going to fight another day. And I just think that that is like the most important thing for moms and for women who are struggling with whatever seasons in their life. It doesn't have to be like you and I, big set traumas and struggles. It doesn't have to be those things. It could just be the day-to-day mundaneness of life. But you're enough, right? You are enough, and you are called and equipped for this season. And I think that's what I want people to hear, is that you're enough. And it's okay to have a pity party for a little bit, but you can't stay there.
Yeah.
You cannot stay there. You have to get up and put on the armor, and you have to go back out to battle every day.
Thank you. Like that for my listeners as well. That message is so powerful. And I wanted to transition a little bit and ask you about your journey that's blossomed from the book you've written, which is Warrior Mum Rising. How did the process of writing help you to process the journey that you've all been on and provide this path for other mums to find transformation?
Yeah, I mean, writing the book was cathartic. I mean, because you do kind of have to go back and kind of sit and relive a little bit of it, right? But it allows you to go back with a different perspective. Like when you look at like the really hard times, you can go back and look at that with a different perspective. Because remember, 2020, I mean, hindsight's 2020. And when you can go back and you can look at, okay, wow, that was really hard in the moment, and I really didn't think we were going to make it through. But man, you can see like the little signs of goodness and joy all throughout the journey. And I think when you can reflect on that, that's powerful. So for me, writing was cathartic. That's why a lot of times, you even think about counselors and therapists, they often say, journal.
Yeah.
Because writing and putting it on paper, that's cathartic. And letting that part out is huge. But it allows us, Chloe was the one that was going through all the struggles, right? And she was having to do the hard work. But at the same time, I was doing work too. And when you can look at that from a different, like in writing or just like journaling, right? Like in the moment, you can look at it and you can journal. But then when you look back at it years later, you're like, wow, look where we came from. And then it produces like this bigger sense of gratitude and joy in you because, man, you were at rock bottom or standing at the fiery gates, but you came out on the other side. And I think that is huge because it just shifts your perspective.
100%. Journaling is, even if it's 5 minutes in your day to reflect, when you look back in the moments where they were the hardest, you were like, wow, I felt all of those things. I had so many feelings in one moment, and it is powerful. I agree. I'm a big advocate for journaling in a process and to transform that journey into a book that is supporting other women on this journey is so powerful. And I wanted to ask you about what mums can expect when they join your Warrior Mum coaching community.
Well, it's just that, like the coaching that I do is in a community style. So because I do recognize that there are women that don't have support systems. And often what they're needed is a support system. And so in the coaching, we are meeting on Zoom and we are talking about our struggles, but we're going through it together. And you realize in that moment that you're not alone and that there is beauty in that community and that you are seen and heard, right? Even though our stories may all be complete 100% opposite. Some of them have children that are struggling with addiction. Some have children that are having mental health issues. Sometimes it's a spouse, but they're still struggling with something and they feel stuck.
Yeah.
And through that together, we can work through the unstuck to help you become unstuck.
That's beautiful. To have a space where people can feel safe, seen and heard, and there's no judgment. That's so valuable to have a community where all of those aspects are on offer. So thank you for creating that community, because there are so many of us all over the world who need that space and who need that support. And I wanted to thank you for your courage and for sharing so openly with me today. And as we close, what final message would you leave for mums listening who might feel overwhelmed but are determined to keep navigating with sheer determination and hope?
Every day, don't stay down. You just got to get up and you got to rise again. That, and like, even when I write like my blogs and things, like it's always the last thing is we rise together. And that's so important. Just keep putting one foot in the other. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true. That's where your strength comes from, is just getting up and doing it again. If you get knocked down, it's okay. Failure is not permanent. But if you stay stuck and you stay down, that can be permanent. Failure is not permanent. Failure is a lesson to say, well, that one didn't work. I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to pivot a little bit and I'm going to try it a different way. That is the thing. Sometimes you just have to rise again and pivot along the way.
100%. It's always that standing up, going, okay, I've had a hard day, but I can put one foot in front of the other and I can take on the next thing. And I'm so grateful for you being here and sharing all of these wonderful words of wisdom. And to all of the mums, if Jenn's story touches your heart or helped you feel seen, visit warriormumcoach.net to find resources, her community, and encouragement to rise from survival to strength. Remember, you were made for this journey and your story isn't over yet. Jenn, thank you for shining light into the hard places and reminding us to navigate with faith and fierce love. Until next time, take gentle care of your radiant moments and have a wonderful day.